As Emma stepped into her room, she felt her heart drop. The space that once held her favorite belongings now looked barren. Her cherished clothes, accessories, and personal items, everything was gone. Panic surged through her as she glanced around, searching for any sign of her possessions. Just as she reached for her phone to call the police, the sound of laughter echoed behind her. It was Helena, her mother-in-law, standing in the doorway with a look of cruel amusement. Predictably upset, "I see," Helena said, her voice dripping with mockery. Emma froze, unsure of how to respond. "What do you mean?" Emma managed to ask, her voice trembling with disbelief. "Oh, don't act so surprised," Helena replied, clearly enjoying Emma's shock. "I got rid of your things. They were unnecessary, after all." Speechless, Emma stared at her mother-in-law, trying to process the situation. Why would she throw away someone else's belongings without asking? But before Emma could confront her, Helena continued. "How long do you plan to stay in this house, anyway? It's time for you to leave. I cleared everything out to make it easier for you. You should be grateful." Emma's shock quickly turned to anger, but she knew arguing would only make things worse. It was clear now that Helena's actions were intentional, her way of forcing Emma out. If that's what she wanted, Emma thought, then so be it. "I understand," Emma said calmly, holding back the flood of emotions. "I'll move out." Helena smirked. "Good. Make it soon." "Yes, but I'll need a week to find a new place," Emma replied, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. "Fine, you have a week. Just make sure you're gone after that," Helena said before walking away, her satisfaction evident. As Emma stood alone in the empty room, she made a silent promise to herself. This wasn't just about leaving the house, it was about reclaiming her independence. She would find a new place, start fresh, and ensure that neither Helena nor her husband could hold her back again. Emma Brooks was a freelance illustrator with a passion for creating art that resonated with people. After graduating from vocational school, she took a leap of faith and pursued her dream of working independently. At first, the journey was anything but smooth. She faced countless rejections and moments of doubt. Yet, her determination never wavered. She started sharing her work on social media, slowly building an audience that appreciated her unique style. Over time, Emma's illustrations caught the attention of companies, and she began receiving offers for high-paying projects. Within a few years, her monthly income soared to over $10,000, a testament to her hard work and perseverance. Throughout this journey, Emma had the unwavering support of her husband, Ryan Carter. The two met during their time at vocational school and had been inseparable ever since. Ryan, who worked in sales at a trading company, always encouraged Emma to follow her passion. "If this is what makes you happy, give it your all," he told her when she decided to go freelance. His words gave Emma the courage to chase her dreams, and she was forever grateful for his faith in her. Their relationship was stable and supportive, built on mutual respect and understanding. For 8 years, they navigated life's ups and downs together, celebrating milestones and overcoming challenges. Emma often credited Ryan for being her rock during the uncertain early days of her career, and she believed their partnership was unshakable. However, things began to change after they moved into Ryan's family home. The decision to relocate was meant to be practical. Ryan's mother, Helena, had been living alone since Ryan's father left years ago. The house had a spare room that could serve as Emma's workspace, and it seemed like a good solution to the cramped apartment they had been living in. Initially, Helena welcomed them warmly, even praising Emma for her success as an illustrator. But beneath the surface, tensions were brewing. As Emma's career continued to flourish, the dynamics in the household shifted. Ryan, who had been facing challenges at work, was eventually laid off, leaving Emma as the primary breadwinner. While she worked tirelessly to maintain their standard of living, Helena's attitude toward her grew increasingly hostile. Subtle comments about Emma's career and her role in the household turned into overt criticism. "She's always drawing like a child," Helena would say, dismissing Emma's hard-earned success. "How can you call that work?" These remarks stung, but Emma tried to stay focused on her goals. The hostility reached its peak when Helena began assigning Emma endless chores, disrupting her ability to meet deadlines. Meanwhile, Ryan seemed indifferent to the growing conflict, offering no support as his mother's actions pushed Emma to her breaking point. What had once been a stable relationship now felt strained. The couple who had stood by each other through so much was now divided, with Emma feeling isolated in a house that was supposed to feel like home. The move, meant to bring convenience, had instead brought chaos, and it was only the beginning. When Emma and Ryan decided to move into Ryan's mother's house, it seemed like the practical choice. Their small apartment had grown cramped, and with Emma's expanding freelance career, she needed a proper workspace for her projects. Ryan suggested the move as a way to save money and utilize the spare room in his childhood home. "My mom's fine with it," he assured her. "She's got plenty of space, and it'll help us get back on track financially." Reluctantly, Emma agreed, hoping this would be a temporary solution. At first, Helena, Ryan's mother, welcomed them warmly. "It's so nice to have the house filled with life again," she said with a bright smile. She even complimented Emma on her career, calling her work inspiring. Helena showed Emma the spare room, encouraging her to set it up as a studio. "Make yourself at home," she said, her tone kind and accommodating. Emma felt optimistic about the change, determined to focus on her growing career in this new environment. For the first few months, everything went smoothly. Emma worked tirelessly on her projects, and her income continued to grow. Ryan, though recently laid off, assured Emma that he would find a new job soon. Meanwhile, Helena appeared supportive, occasionally dropping by Emma's studio to admire her work. Emma thought she had found a peaceful arrangement. But as time passed, Helena's attitude began to change. The occasional comments about Emma's work became sharper and more dismissive. "You're always sketching away," Helena remarked one day, her tone less cheerful than before. "Is that really all you do all day?" Emma tried to brush it off, thinking it was just an offhand comment. Soon, the criticisms grew more frequent and direct. Helena started assigning Emma chores around the house, despite knowing how much time Emma needed for her work. "If you're staying here, you should contribute more," she said one morning. Emma, feeling obligated, began juggling housework alongside her demanding projects. Helena's once friendly demeanor shifted to one of impatience and control, and Emma found herself walking on eggshells around her mother-in-law. What began as a hopeful solution to their space and financial problems was quickly turning into a nightmare. Emma could feel the tension in the house growing, and her once productive routine was unraveling under the weight of Helena's demands and criticisms. It was becoming clear that this living arrangement would not work for long. The turning point in Emma and Ryan's life came suddenly. Ryan, who had been working in sales at a trading company for years, returned home one afternoon with a heavy sigh. "I've been let go," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma, who was busy at her desk, froze. "What? Let go? What happened?" she asked, her concern evident. Ryan explained that his department had been downsized due to underperformance, and the company offered him a choice between a drastic pay cut or severance. He chose the latter, hoping to quickly find another job. While Emma sympathized with Ryan's predicament, the news created an undeniable ripple of uncertainty. For the first time in their marriage, financial security became a looming concern. With Ryan out of work, the responsibility of supporting them fell entirely on Emma's shoulders. Already working long hours as a freelance illustrator, she now pushed herself even harder. Her days stretched from early morning until late at night, taking on every project she could to make up for the lost income. The pressure was immense, but Emma was determined to keep them afloat. At first, Emma hoped Ryan would use the time to find a new job. "You'll bounce back," she encouraged, trying to keep his spirits up. But days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and Ryan showed little effort in searching for work. Instead, he spent his days lounging around the house, scrolling through his phone or watching TV. "I need time to figure things out," he'd say whenever Emma gently broached the subject. As Emma's workload increased, so did her exhaustion. The strain was not only physical, but emotional. She began to resent Ryan's complacency and his growing reliance on her income. While she toiled away to ensure their bills were paid, Ryan seemed content to remain idle, offering no support in managing the household or addressing their financial situation. The once stable foundation of their marriage began to crack under the weight of unspoken frustrations. Emma felt isolated, carrying the burden of their survival alone. Ryan, once her biggest supporter, now seemed more like a distant roommate than a partner. Their relationship, once built on mutual respect and encouragement, was becoming a source of tension and despair. For Emma, the realization was heartbreaking. She could no longer depend on Ryan, and it was a truth she could no longer ignore. As time went on, Emma's relationship with her mother-in-law, Helena, took a dramatic turn for the worse. What had started as occasional passive-aggressive comments quickly escalated into outright hostility. Helena, once cordial and welcoming, seemed determined to make Emma's life as difficult as possible. "Emma, come downstairs," Helena called out one morning as Emma worked on a tight deadline. "Can you do the laundry? And don't forget to clean the kitchen after breakfast." Emma sighed, trying to stay calm. "I'll do it as soon as I finish this project," she replied. But Helena's demands kept piling up. If it wasn't laundry, it was vacuuming the entire house, running errands, or preparing elaborate meals. The constant interruptions took a toll on Emma's ability to focus. Her work hours grew more fragmented, and her productivity plummeted. Deadlines became harder to meet, and for the first time in years, Emma began losing clients. Her once thriving freelance career, which had been the couple's financial lifeline, was now at risk. As her income dropped, so did her morale. The vibrant passion she had for her art dimmed under the weight of Helena's relentless demands. Feeling cornered, Emma turned to Ryan for support. One evening, as they sat down to dinner, she broached the topic carefully. "Ryan, your mom's been giving me so many chores. It's hard to keep up with everything and still get my work done. Can you please talk to her?" Ryan barely looked up from his plate. "Why don't you just tell her yourself?" he muttered. "Besides, you're home all day. Can't you manage both?" Emma was stunned. "I'm working, Ryan. You know how demanding my projects are. I can't do everything," she said, frustration creeping into her voice. Ryan shrugged. "Then maybe we should move out if it's such a big deal. You're earning enough, aren't you?" His dismissive attitude hurt more than Emma cared to admit. She had hoped for understanding and support, but instead, Ryan's indifference left her feeling more isolated than ever. It was clear he had no intention of addressing the situation, leaving Emma to fend for herself in a house that increasingly felt like enemy territory. With Helena's harassment escalating and Ryan's apathy adding to her struggles, Emma felt trapped. Her once stable life was unraveling, and for the first time, she began questioning if staying in this toxic environment was worth the cost to her career, her mental health, and her dignity. Emma had been holding on, enduring the relentless harassment from her mother-in-law, Helena, and the indifference of her husband, Ryan. But one fateful day, everything came crashing down. As Emma stepped into her room, she froze in disbelief. The closet doors were ajar, her drawers were empty, and her cherished belongings, clothes, accessories, and sentimental items were gone. The room, once a refuge from the chaos, now felt hollow and unfamiliar. Panicked, Emma searched frantically, hoping it was all a misunderstanding. But her worst fears were confirmed when Helena appeared in the doorway, arms crossed and a smug smile on her face. "Looking for something?" she asked, her tone mocking. "What happened to my things?" Emma demanded, her voice shaking. "I threw them out," Helena said casually, as if discussing the weather. "They were unnecessary. It's about time you got the message. How long do you plan to freeload in my house? I cleared everything out to make it easier for you to leave. You should be grateful." Emma was speechless. The violation was so blatant, so personal, that for a moment, she couldn't find the words. But as the initial shock wore off, her anger boiled over. This wasn't just about her belongings. This was the final act in a long campaign to push her out. If Helena wanted her gone, Emma would oblige. But it wouldn't just be the house she was leaving behind. "Fine," Emma said, her voice steady and calm, masking the storm inside her. "I'll move out." Helena smirked. "Good. Make it sooner rather than later." Emma held her composure. Give me a week to arrange everything, and I'll be gone. Fine, Helena replied dismissively. Just don't overstay your welcome. Emma wasted no time. That evening, she began searching for a new apartment, determined to reclaim her independence. After a few days of searching, she found the perfect place, a luxury high-rise apartment in the city. The spacious, modern setting symbolized a fresh start, free from the toxicity of her current life. With her savings, she secured the lease and prepared to leave. But Emma knew there was one more step she needed to take. She drafted divorce papers and filed them at the courthouse. When the week was up, she packed her belongings and handed Ryan the documents. Sign these and send them back to the court, she said firmly.
What?
Divorce? Ryan asked, bewildered.
Yes.
This marriage is over. I'm done being disrespected and unsupported, Emma replied. You suggested I move out, so I'm taking your advice. With that, Emma walked out of the house, leaving behind the burdens of a toxic relationship and stepping into a future she would build on her own terms. With her belongings packed and her decision made, Emma prepared for the final confrontation. After enduring months of mistreatment and disregard, it was time to reclaim her life. That morning, she called Ryan and Helena into the living room. They both seemed taken aback by her firm tone and determined demeanor. What's going on? Ryan asked, noticing the stack of papers in her hand. Emma looked at them both, her voice steady. I'm leaving. For good. And these, she said, holding up the papers, are divorce documents. Ryan, I need you to sign them and send them to the court. Ryan stared at her, stunned.
What?
Divorce? Emma, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the months of disrespect and neglect I've endured, Emma said, her voice rising slightly. Your indifference, your refusal to look for a job, and your mother's relentless harassment. It's all too much. I'm done. Helena, who had been watching silently, scoffed. Oh, come on, Emma. Don't be so dramatic. You've been freeloading here, and now you're playing the victim? Emma turned to Helena, her eyes sharp. Freeloading? I've been the one paying the bills while your son sits around doing nothing. And let's not forget your endless demands and insults. Throwing out my belongings? That was the last straw. Helena smirked, clearly unfazed. You don't belong here. Honestly, I've never liked you, especially with that ridiculous career of yours. A wife earning more than her husband? It's embarrassing. Emma's anger flared. So that's what this has been about. My success makes you uncomfortable? That's pathetic. I've worked hard for everything I've achieved, while you've done nothing but tear me down. Ryan finally spoke, his tone defensive. Emma, don't drag Mom into this. She's just set in her ways. You could have tried harder to get along. Emma shot him a disbelieving look. Get along? I've tried to make this work while you've done nothing to help. You didn't stand up for me once, not even when your mother went out of her way to sabotage me. Ryan fumbled for a response, but fell silent under Emma's glare. She took a deep breath, then addressed them both. This is the last time I'll let either of you undermine me. I'm leaving, and I won't look back. Helena rolled her eyes. Good riddance. You'll see how hard it is out there without us. Emma laughed bitterly. Hard? I've already secured a new apartment, a luxury high-rise, paid for with my hard-earned money. I don't need either of you. With that, Emma walked out, leaving the divorce papers on the table. She moved into her new home that afternoon, a spacious and modern apartment that felt like a symbol of freedom. As she unpacked, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in months. For the first time in a long time, Emma's future was hers to shape, and she knew she was better off without the weight of a toxic marriage and a bitter mother-in-law holding her back. Emma Brooks finally had the fresh start she'd longed for. Her new apartment, a spacious and modern high-rise overlooking the city, was more than just a home. It was a symbol of freedom and independence. For the first time in months, she felt at peace. No interruptions, no criticism, and no toxic environment to navigate. This was her space, and she was determined to make the most of it. Emma threw herself into her work with renewed energy. The dedicated workspace in her new apartment allowed her to focus like never before. With no one assigning her chores or belittling her efforts, she found herself producing some of her best illustrations yet. Her social media following grew rapidly, and the influx of new projects reaffirmed her decision to leave the toxic household behind. Beyond work, Emma prioritized her personal growth. She began taking morning walks in the nearby park, something she hadn't done in years. She started reading again, exploring books on self-improvement and creativity. Slowly but surely, Emma rebuilt her confidence and rediscovered the joy in her independence. Her tranquility was interrupted one afternoon by an unexpected call from Ryan. "Emma, we need your help," he said, his voice pleading. "We're struggling. Mom and I can't cover the bills, and the utilities have been shut off. Can you lend us some money? Just until I get back on my feet." Emma felt no sympathy. "Ryan, you both made your choices, and now you're dealing with the consequences. I'm not your safety net anymore," she replied firmly. "Figure it out yourselves." Despite his protests, Emma ended the call. She had no intention of being dragged back into their chaos. When Helena tried calling a few days later with a similar plea, Emma ignored it entirely. For Emma, this was her new beginning, a life where she prioritized her happiness and well-being above all else. She had worked too hard to build her success and wasn't about to let anyone take that away. Moving forward, Emma focused on her future, leaving the past and its toxic ties far behind. Emma thought she had closed the chapter on Ryan and Helena when she walked out of their lives, but they were not ready to let go so easily. Days turned into weeks, and just as she began settling into her new life, the calls started coming. At first, she ignored them, hoping they would eventually stop. But Ryan and Helena were persistent. "Emma, please," Ryan pleaded during one of the rare times she answered. "We're really struggling. The bills are piling up, and Mom's health isn't great. Just a little help. Anything would make a difference." Emma's response was as firm as ever. "Ryan, you and your mother made your choices. You let her treat me like a servant while you stood by and did nothing. I owe you nothing." Undeterred, Helena called next, her tone surprisingly meek. "Emma, we were family once. Surely you can find it in your heart to help us. I know I was hard on you, but things were different then." Emma cut her off. "Different? You made my life miserable because I was successful and you couldn't handle it. Don't call me again." Despite her clear boundaries, the pair continued to push, even resorting to showing up near Emma's apartment. One day, as she pulled back the living room curtains, she spotted Ryan and Helena walking around the building, their movements erratic and desperate. Annoyed, she opened her window and called out to them. "What are you doing here? I've told you to leave me alone." Ryan looked up, startled but defiant. "We just want to talk, Emma. Please hear us out." "I've made myself clear," she snapped. "If you don't leave, I'll call the police." True to her word, Emma reported their suspicious behavior when they didn't leave. Within an hour, police cars arrived, and Emma watched from her window as Ryan and Helena were escorted into one of the vehicles. A neighbor had also reported them for loitering, which added to their predicament. As they were driven away, Emma felt a mix of relief and satisfaction. She had endured enough of their toxic behavior and was done being their target. The incident marked the final time Ryan and Helena tried to reach out. For Emma, it was a powerful reminder of her strength and the boundaries she had reclaimed. Her new life, free of their burdens, was truly hers to live. Emma Brooks made the decision to permanently sever ties with her ex-husband, Ryan, and his manipulative mother, Helena. The final incident with the police cemented her resolve. She was done with their endless attempts to drag her back into their chaos. For too long, she had been weighed down by their toxic behavior, but now, she was free to live life on her own terms. In her new apartment, surrounded by an environment of peace and inspiration, Emma embraced the independence she had fought so hard to reclaim. She focused on her work, creating some of her most successful illustrations yet, and her career flourished once again. Each project was a testament to her resilience and determination, a reminder that she had built this life herself. Beyond work, Emma found joy in the little things she had missed: quiet mornings with a cup of coffee, strolls in the park, and evenings spent exploring new hobbies. The stress and hostility she had endured were replaced by a newfound sense of purpose and self-worth. She realized she didn't need anyone's approval or validation. She was enough on her own. Emma also set clear boundaries for her future. She promised herself she would never again tolerate manipulation or disrespect, no matter the source. Her life was hers to shape, and she intended to do so with confidence and pride. With her past behind her, Emma looked forward to a future filled with possibility, peace, and success.